I'm going to unpack a B2B podcast strategy that positions you as the authority and drives real ROI.
Always be closing.
If you're new here, I'm Johnny Page, the CEO at SaaS Academy, where we help B2B software founders build the company of their dreams and ultimately achieve the perfect exit. Let's dive in. Hey guys, don't miss out on our SaaS scaling secrets. Smash that subscribe button and I'll see you on the next episode. Now, in my opinion, podcasting is the easiest strategy to get a founder involved in content marketing without becoming a great writer or great on video, but it's not like most people do it. You can't waste your time with an interview style show or chasing download numbers. That'll leave you like thousands of podcasters that have come before where they just fade off into obscurity. In this video, I'm gonna show you what you can do so you can be positioned as the expert and get real ROI on your podcast efforts. When I was building Silvertrack, one of the co-founders of the business, Chris Anderson, had over 40 years of experience in our industry. And I would see Chris at trade shows or on sales calls get into these deep conversations with our clients because he knew their world inside and out. It almost turned into mini therapy sessions. But when I looked at our sales and our marketing collateral, it really failed to create that same response. So after seeing hundreds of these interactions with Chris where people would leave and become lifetime customers of Silvertrack, I started to wonder, how could I scale that same response for people who didn't have a chance to interact one-on-one with Chris? So we started a podcast. I would interview Chris and unpack all of those stories and experiences that I heard him sharing in those one-on-one conversations, but this time I could take it and share it with prospects who hadn't even met Chris. 100 episodes later, we had built a really strong niche following in our space that not only knew us as experts, but we had helped way more people than our product ever could, and it made a lasting impact on our ability to scale the company. We used the podcast to create blogs and resource guides that converted traffic into leads. We used that same content to help transition out of founder-led sales and hire a sales team that could actually talk like us and knew our customers extremely well because of the hours they heard Chris talking about the problem and the industry. And then we created a number of episodes designed to specifically address common objections in the sales process. By the time we reached our 100th episode, about 80% of our sales calls were from people who had already listened to an episode of the podcast, and our close rates were pushing 50%. Now, there are 3 reasons why founders hesitate to create a podcast. And the first reason is they think that podcasting is super saturated. They say, why would someone listen to my podcast when they could be listening to other highly produced podcasts? The second reason is they have imposter syndrome. They just wonder, do I really have something to share? I don't know if I have the charisma of someone who should be a podcaster or be on video. And then the third reason is they're just unclear on how to get ROI from the effort. It almost feels like a pet project of the CEO rather than something that drives real business ROI. Now, on the flip side, there are 3 reasons why you should start a podcast. The first is that it allows you to hone your market message fit. Once you find product market fit, now it becomes really important for you to articulate the problem that you solve, your point of view on that problem, and how your product actually solves it. Reason number 2 is that it's an extremely high leverage way to scale the founder's involvement in your marketing and sales process. In only a few hours a week, you can give your team everything you need to create high quality content that aligns with your brand and your point of view. The third reason is that it produces a better you. Creating content is an incredible arena for building the skills that a founder needs to become a successful CEO. Skills like speaking, building relationships, and teaching. All right, so assuming that if you've made it this far into the video, you're at least open to the idea of podcasting. So now I want to unpack the strategy that makes this an ROI positive project. To design a winning podcast strategy, you have to understand that there are 3 different types of podcast episodes. The first is an episode designed to produce content for your funnel. These are episodes that will move people from the awareness stage of the buyer's journey through to the point where they're actually ready to make a purchase of your product. All right, so let's break down an example. Marcel Petitpom is the founder of Parakeeto, a software company that helps agencies increase their profit. He's also the host of the Agency Profit podcast. Marcel creates podcasts designed to help his prospects become both aware of the problem they have and his company.
Hello and welcome back to the Agency Profit Podcast. Today,
if you're an agency owner, these are great episodes that get you introduced to Marcel and the way that he thinks about the problem that they solve. Now, on every podcast episode, Marcel has a call to action to download his free Agency Profit Toolkit, which allows him to convert listeners into leads. Then to cap it all off, Marcel is interviewing his most successful clients to produce case studies that his sales team can use for those prospects at the decision stage of the buyer's journey. These are all great examples of funnel content. And if you're gonna produce a podcast, you have to start with this type of episode. It's the fastest way to build your authority and influence buyers already in your funnel. All right, so now let's talk about the second type of podcast episode. This is designed to actually expand your network. These are the interview style shows that many podcasters end up starting with. Now there's 3 different types of guests and each one has a different purpose. The first is the most obvious. These are the experts and the influencers, and they're really designed to help you build your authority or borrow that authority from experts that are already established in the space. The second is a potential partner. These are people who are also serving your target customers. They can make for great guests and also help you build relationships with those who already have an established audience in your space. The third type of guest is a potential customer. Now, I believe that every founder should have a dream list of clients that they would love to have one day. Now, let's take that dream list and imagine that you cold email them and you invite them to a demo. Most likely, they're gonna tell you to pound sand and you get nothing but crickets. But if you email them and you invite them to a podcast, it's much more likely that they come on, you build a relationship that eventually can lead to a commercial conversation. All right, so the final type of podcast episode is something I call edutainment. This is a podcast strategy that very few B2B brands have been able to reach because this strategy is designed to both entertain and educate. These are the shows that are typically much higher in production value. Think about the scripted narratives like How I Built This or Gimlet Media's Startup Podcast. Where most founders go wrong is that they're benchmarking their success of their show against the download numbers of these types of shows, and it's like comparing apples to oranges. This is a podcast strategy many multi-million-dollar B2B brands have failed trying to execute, so stick to level 1 and level 2 content, leave the level 3 content for those multi-million-dollar media brands. All right, guys, well, there you have it. If you check out the show notes below, I have a couple of resources to help you get started on this podcast strategy. There's a resource in there to help you map out your funnel content and build a list of your potential podcast guests. I've also got a full guide of everything you could possibly need to get started with a podcast. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, and I'll be back next week with more content to help you grow your business.